Silence has a sound. Most beings never learn this truth. But 47,000 souls on trading station Helix 7 discovered it in a single heartbeat. Pella, a Varani merchant with silver scales and 4 delicate arms, had been arguing about mineral prices. Her customer, a fat Thuric with too many eyes, was trying to cheat her. She was about to call him a liar when every voice in the market died at once. Not slowly. Not gradually. Every being simply stopped breathing, stopped moving, stopped existing as anything but frozen statues of pure terror. Pella turned to see what could frighten 10,000 people into silence. She wished she had not looked. The creature stood 12 feet tall. Its body was covered in scales that shifted between black and blood red, like living armor forged in some nightmare. Its eyes burned yellow, and when it breathed, smoke rose from its nostrils. For arms ended in claws that could tear through starship hulls. A tail thick as a tree trunk swayed behind it, crushing a food stall without the creature even noticing. A Gorvith. Pella had heard stories. Everyone had heard stories. The Gorvith came from a world of eternal storms and volcanic fire. They were the ultimate predators of a planet where everything tried to kill everything else. They had never developed diplomacy or trade or peace. They had never needed to. Nothing in the universe could challenge them. They simply took what they wanted. The Gorvith opened its mouth and roared. The sound hit Pella like a physical force. She saw 3 Meliks nearby collapse, their sensitive hearing membranes ruptured and bleeding. Glass shattered throughout the market. Children screamed. Adults tried to run, but their legs would not obey. When the roar ended, the Gorvith spoke. Its voice was deep as grinding stones. I am Draven. This station is now my territory. No one responded. No one could. You have 1 cycle to leave. Anyone who remains becomes my prey. The words broke the spell. Chaos erupted. Thousands of beings ran in every direction, trampling each other, screaming, crying. Pella was knocked down and nearly crushed before she managed to crawl into a doorway. From there, she watched. Station security arrived. 12 officers with light weapons formed a line in front of Draven. The Gorvith looked at them the way a person might look at insects. He did not even bother to attack. He simply walked forward. The officers scattered like leaves in a wind. Counselor Yith, the elderly Malaxi who ran the station, appeared on the emergency screens. His voice trembled as he announced evacuation protocols. Ships would be loaded. Priority given to children and elderly. Everyone should proceed calmly to the docking bays. But Pella knew the math. She had lived on this station for 20 years. She knew exactly how many ships were available. 12,000 seats. 47,000 people. Most of them would be left behind to face the monster. She began to cry. Through her tears, she saw something strange. A single figure was walking against the crowd. While everyone else ran away from Draven, this being walked toward the monster. It was a human. Pella had seen humans before, but not many. They were a newer species to galactic civilization, and they kept mostly to themselves. This one was older, with gray in his short hair and lines on his weathered face. He wore simple clothes, the kind a cargo hauler might wear. Nothing special about him at all, except that he was walking toward a Gorvith. The human stopped in front of Counselor Yith, who had come down to personally oversee the evacuation. They spoke briefly. Pella could not hear the words, but she saw Yith's expression change from confusion to disbelief to something that might have been hope. Then the human turned and walked directly toward Draven. Pella stopped breathing. The Gorvith noticed the small creature approaching. Its yellow eyes narrowed with what might have been amusement. When the human stopped just 10 feet away, Draven lowered his massive head to examine this strange prey. You approach, Draven rumbled. Brave or stupid? Neither, the human said. His voice was calm, quiet, almost bored. I am the one telling you to leave. Draven laughed. The sound made Pella's bones shake. You threaten me, little thing. No threat, the human said. A promise. You try to hurt these people, and I will kill you. Then I will go to your world. And I will make sure your people remember what happens when they threaten mine. The market had gone silent again. But this time it was not fear that held everyone frozen. It was something else. Something that felt almost like electricity in the air. Draven studied the human for a long moment. Then, slowly, his lips pulled back to reveal teeth like black daggers. You are interesting, little prey. I will give you until the night cycle to prepare. Then I hunt you first. The human nodded once. I will be waiting. He turned and walked away. Draven watched him go, still smiling that terrible smile. Pella found herself moving before she knew what she was doing. She pushed through the crowd, following the human. She caught up to him near the cargo docks. Who are you? She demanded. The human looked at her with tired eyes. My name is Ben Walker. I haul cargo. That is not what I meant. Who are you to challenge a Gorvith? Ben was quiet for a moment. Then he sighed. I am someone who made a promise, he said. And I always keep my promises. He walked into his ship and closed the door behind him. Pella stood alone in the corridor, her heart pounding, wondering if she had just witnessed the bravest or the most foolish thing in the galaxy. She would not have to wait long to find out. Every soul on Helix 7 had seen the security footage. It played on loop across every screen, shared in whispers and gasps through every corridor that a human had challenged a Gorvith. Counselor Yith found Ben Walker in docking bay 17, examining his small cargo ship with the focused attention of a surgeon preparing for surgery. The elderly Malaxi approached slowly, his 4 thin legs trembling. You cannot be serious, Yith said. Ben did not look up from his work. I am always serious. The Gorvith are legends of destruction. Their homeworld is classified as a Class 14 Deathworld. Nothing survives there except predators, and they are the ultimate predators. They have destroyed entire colonies, killed thousands without effort. I know what they are. Yith made a sound of frustration. Then why? Why would you throw your life away? Ben finally turned to face the old counselor. His eyes were calm but heavy, like a man carrying a weight no one else could see. How many civilians are on this station? Ben asked. Yith blinked. 47,000, approximately. How many evacuation ships? Enough for 12,000. Perhaps 13 if we pack them tight. And the rest? Yith's silence was answer enough. Ben nodded slowly. 35,000 people left behind to be hunted by that thing. Families, children, old folks who cannot run fast enough. He paused. I have a ship. I could leave. I could take 12 passengers and be gone before the night cycle begins. Then why do you not? Because I am not that man anymore. Ben opened a cargo container that had been locked with 7 different codes. Inside, Yith saw equipment he did not recognize. Weapons, yes, but also armor, tools, and devices that looked both ancient and deadly. What is all this? Yith whispered. My past, Ben said. A past I tried to leave behind 30 years ago. He began to pull items from the container, checking each one with practiced hands. Counselor, let me tell you something about humans. Our homeworld, Earth, is classified as a Class 12 Death World. We evolved on a planet where everything was trying to kill us. The weather, the animals, the plants, even the bacteria in our own bodies. We learned to survive by being more stubborn than anything else in the universe. He lifted a weapon and checked its power cell. When humanity first reached the stars, we discovered something interesting. Other species looked at us with fear. At first, we did not understand why. Then we learned that most civilizations evolve on gentle worlds. Worlds where survival is easy. They never needed to develop the instincts we carry in our blood. Yith watched, unable to speak. I was part of something called a Deathworld response team. Humans trained to fight on the most dangerous planets in the galaxy. We went places where no one else would go. We faced things that made other species run screaming. Ben's hands stopped moving. His voice grew quiet. I left that life because of what it cost me. I have been running cargo for 30 years, trying to forget. But some things you cannot forget. Some skills stay with you forever. He looked up at Yith with eyes that had seen too much. That creature out there thinks he is the ultimate predator. He thinks nothing can challenge him. But he has never faced a human who has stopped running. Yith found his voice. What do you need? Information. Maps of the station. Maintenance tunnels, cargo bays, ventilation systems. Everything. You shall have it. What else? People. Anyone willing to help. Not fighters. I do not need fighters. I need engineers, mechanics, anyone who knows this station inside and out. Within the hour, volunteers began to arrive. Pella came first, the Varani merchant from the market. She brought her life savings in credits and a determination that surprised even herself that a young Thuric named Saf arrived next. He had 4 arms and a talent for building things. He had been a mechanic on the station for 5 years and knew every pipe and wire in the place. Others followed. A dozen at first, then 2 dozen. Ordinary beings who had decided they would rather fight than run. Ben gathered them in a cargo bay and spoke simply. I am not going to lie to you. This is dangerous. Many of us might die, but if we do nothing, thousands will definitely die. I have a plan, but I need your help. Saf raised one of his 4 hands. What is the plan? Ben smiled, but it was not a pleasant expression. The Gorvith is an apex predator. He has never known fear. He has never been hunted. He expects us to run and hide like frightened animals. Ben paused. We are not going to run. We are going to turn this entire station into a trap. And when that monster comes looking for prey, he is going to find something very different waiting for him. What? Pella asked. A predator older and meaner than anything his world ever produced. The artificial lights dimmed slightly, signaling the approach of the night cycle. Somewhere in the station, Draven roared. The hunt was about to begin, but this time, the prey had teeth. Draven moved through the darkened corridors like death itself. His infrared vision painted the world in shades of heat. Cold walls glowed blue. Warm pipes showed orange. And somewhere ahead, prey waited to be found. He had hunted across 100 worlds. He had killed creatures twice his size and warriors armed with the best weapons civilizations could build. None had ever posed a true challenge. None had ever made him feel anything but the simple joy of the kill. This hunt would be no different, or so he believed. The first sign of trouble came in Corridor 7. Draven was stalking forward when the ceiling above him groaned. He looked up just in time to see tons of metal plating falling toward his head. He leaped backward, barely avoiding being crushed. The crash echoed through the station like thunder. Dust and debris filled the air. Draven stood in the wreckage, his yellow eyes scanning the darkness. Someone had rigged that ceiling to fall. Someone had been waiting for him. His lips pulled back in a smile. So the little human wanted to play games. He continued forward, more cautious now. Elsewhere in the station, Ben watched through a security camera. He sat in a small control room with Saf and 3 other volunteers. Screens surrounded them, showing feeds from throughout the station. He survived, Saf said, his 4 hands working the controls. I expected that, Ben replied. The point was not to kill him. Not yet. The point was to make him think. Think about what? About why a ceiling that should not fall suddenly decided to fall. About what else might be waiting in the dark. About whether he is the hunter or the hunted. On the screen, Draven had stopped moving. He stood perfectly still in the corridor, his head turning slowly, searching for threats he could not see. He is confused, Pella whispered. She had refused to leave, despite Ben telling her twice to go to the shelters. Good, Ben said. Confusion is the first step. Fear comes next. He pressed a button. Throughout the station, speakers crackled to life. Ben's voice echoed through every corridor. Welcome to my station, Draven. I hope you are enjoying your hunt. The Gorvith's head snapped toward the nearest speaker. You think you are a predator, Ben continued. You think this is your territory now? But you are wrong. This is my territory, and you are not the hunter here. You are the prey. Draven roared in fury. He slashed the speaker with his claws, destroying it in a shower of sparks. Ben smiled and pressed another button. Somewhere near Draven, a door opened. Footsteps echoed. The Gorvith spun toward the sound, ready to kill. Nothing was there. Another door opened behind him. More footsteps. He spun again, still nothing. What is happening? Saf asked. Recorded sounds, Ben explained, playing through speakers in random locations. He does not know what is real and what is fake. Every shadow becomes a threat. Every sound becomes an enemy. On the screen, Draven was no longer walking confidently. He moved in careful circles, his claws raised, his eyes darting everywhere at once. He is actually nervous, Pella said in wonder. He has never been hunted before, Ben said. He does not know how to handle it. His entire species evolved as apex predators. They have no instincts for being prey, no experience with fear. Ben leaned forward. But he is about to learn. He pressed another button. In a corridor near Draven, a vent opened. A cloud of gas poured out, filling the passage with thick white fog that blocked even infrared vision. Draven bellowed and charged through the fog, slashing at phantoms. When he emerged on the other side, he found himself in a maze of shipping containers, each one identical, forming walls that stretched in every direction. He had no idea which way led out. And somewhere in that maze, something moved. Draven spun toward the sound. A flash of movement. A human shape, there and gone in an instant that he gave chase. Through the maze he ran, following glimpses of his prey. Left, right, left again. The containers formed an endless labyrinth. And always, just ahead, the human remained barely out of reach. Until Draven turned a corner and found himself facing a dead end that he spun around. Ben stood at the other end of the passage, a weapon in his hand. Looking for me? Ben asked that he fired. The blast hit Draven in the shoulder. Not enough to seriously wound, but enough to burn through scales that had never been burned before. Draven roared and charged, but Ben was already gone, vanished into the maze like smoke. The Gorvith stood alone in the passage, blood dripping from his shoulder. His blood, his own blood, spilled by prey, for the first time in his very long life. Draven felt something cold crawling up his spine. He did not have a word for this feeling, but humans did. They called it fear, and the night was only beginning. Blood dripped from Draven's shoulder as he stalked through the station. The wound was small, barely worth noticing, but it meant something terrible that he could be hurt. For 300 years, Draven had believed himself invincible. He had killed warriors, soldiers, and heroes. He had torn through armies and burned colonies. Nothing had ever touched him. Now a creature half his size had drawn his blood. The Gorvith's rage burned hot, but something else burned alongside it. Something unfamiliar. Something that whispered in his mind that maybe, just maybe, he had made a mistake coming here. He crushed that thought immediately that he was Gorvith. He was the ultimate predator. One lucky shot meant nothing that he would find the human. He would tear him apart slowly. He would make him scream for hours before allowing him to die. The speakers crackled again. Still hunting, Draven? The Gorvith snarled at the ceiling. Show yourself, little prey. Face me like a warrior. Warriors fight fair, Ben's voice replied. I am not a warrior. I am something much worse. I am a survivor. What does that mean? It means I do not care about honor or glory. I care about one thing only. Winning. And I always win. Draven smashed another speaker. The sound of Ben's quiet laughter echoed from 3 more before falling silent. I in the control room. Ben turned to his team. Phase 2, he said. Time to make him bleed for real. Saf nodded and began typing commands. Throughout the station, systems began to change. Ventilation fans reversed direction. Doors locked and unlocked in patterns designed to funnel movement in specific directions. Temperature controls shifted, creating hot zones and cold zones. Ben studied the map of the station on his screen. He is heading towards Section 9, he said. Perfect. That is where we want him. Pella looked worried. Section 9 is near the civilian shelters. I know, but it is also near the industrial processing center. Lots of heavy machinery. Lots of ways to hurt something big and stupid. Ben grabbed his weapon and headed for the door. Where are you going? Pella demanded. To finish this. Alone. Ben paused. This part one have to do alone. Keep watching the screens. If I fail, get everyone to the ships and run. Before Pella could argue, he was gone. Draven entered Section 9 with caution. The corridor opened into a vast chamber filled with massive machines. Pipes as thick as trees ran along the ceiling. Catwalks crossed overhead. Steam hissed from vents. The Gorvith's infrared vision was useless here. Too many heat sources. Too many shadows. Too many places for prey to hide. I know you are here, Draven called. I can smell your fear. That is not fear you smell. Ben's voice echoed from somewhere above. That is anticipation. Draven looked up just as something heavy fell toward him. He dodged, but not fast enough. A metal beam caught him across the back. Driving him to his knees, he rose with a roar and leaped toward the catwalk where the attack had come from. Empty. Another beam fell from a different direction. Then another. Draven spun and dodged, but each time he moved, another attack came from a different angle. How many of you are there? He bellowed. Just me, Ben replied, dropping from a pipe directly onto Draven's back. The human was fast. Before Draven could react, Ben had driven a blade into the gap between the Gorvith's neck scales. The wound was not deep enough to kill, but deep enough to hurt. Draven screamed and threw himself backward, slamming Ben against a machine. The human grunted in pain but held on, twisting the blade. With a mighty heave, Draven finally threw Ben off. The human hit the ground hard and rolled. He came up bleeding from his forehead, but his eyes were steady. You are strong, Draven admitted, actually impressed despite his fury. Stronger than any prey I have faced. I am not prey, Ben said. Then what are you? Ben smiled. It was not a nice smile. I am a human. We come from a world where everything wants to kill us. The air, the water, the animals, even each other. We have been fighting for survival since before we could walk upright. 37 million years of evolution, Draven. 37 million years of learning how to kill anything that threatens us. Draven circled slowly, looking for an opening. You think you are the ultimate predator, Ben continued. But your species has only existed for 100,000 years. You are children compared to us. You learned to hunt on a world where you had no competition. We learned to hunt on a world where everything was competition. The Gorvith charged. What followed was brutal. Draven was bigger, stronger, faster. His claws opened wounds across Ben's chest and arms. But every time he struck, Ben struck back. Every wound Draven inflicted, he received in return, and the human would not stop, and no matter how much blood he lost, no matter how many bones cracked, Ben kept fighting. His attacks never slowed. His aim never faltered. His eyes never showed fear. Draven finally stepped back, breathing hard. Black blood dripped from a dozen wounds. He had never been hurt like this. Never. Why will you not die? He demanded. Ben stood in a pool of his own blood, barely able to stand, but still ready to fight. Because I made a promise, he said. And humans always keep their promises. Above them, the ceiling groaned. Draven looked up. The entire catwalk structure was collapsing, tons of metal falling directly toward him. He tried to run, but Ben threw himself forward, grabbing Draven's leg and holding on with all his remaining strength. Let go, Draven screamed. No, Ben said. The ceiling fell, and everything went dark. Pella watched the security feed in horror as the catwalk collapsed. Tons of metal crashed down where Ben and Draven had been fighting. Dust and steam filled the chamber, blocking the camera. No, she whispered. No, no, no. Saf was already moving. We have to get down there. He told us to run if he failed, another volunteer said. That was not failure, Saf snapped. That was a plan. Ben does not do anything without a plan. They ran 30 levels below the control room. In the depths of the industrial processing center, something stirred beneath the wreckage. Draven pushed through the twisted metal, his body screaming with pain. The collapse had not killed him. His armored scales had protected him from the worst of it. But he was hurt, badly hurt. Several ribs were broken. One arm hung at a wrong angle. Blood poured from cuts all over his body. He crawled out of the debris and looked around. The human lay nearby, half buried under a beam. His body was still. His eyes were closed. Blood covered everything. Draven smiled despite his pain. Finally, the prey was dead, but when he reached for the body, Ben's eyes opened. Surprise, the human said. His hand came up holding a small device. He pressed the button. The floor beneath Draven exploded. Not an explosion of fire and heat, but of structure. The metal plates that formed the floor simply fell away, revealing a 30-foot drop into the waste processing pit below. Draven fell. He hit the bottom hard, landing in a pool of chemical waste that burned his scales. He screamed and thrashed, pulling himself out of the liquid onto a narrow platform. Above him, silhouetted against the light, Ben appeared at the edge of the hole. Waste processing, Ben called down. This is where the station dumps everything toxic. The chemicals down there will eat through your scales in about 10 minutes. The only way out is up, and I am up here. Draven roared in fury. He tried to climb, but his broken arm would not support his weight. He fell back to the platform, splashing more burning chemicals across his body. You cannot do this, Draven bellowed. I am Gorvith. I am the ultimate predator. You were, Ben said. He sat down at the edge of the hole, looking down at his enemy. Blood dripped from his wounds, but his voice was steady. You were the ultimate predator on your world. But this is not your world. This is my station, my territory. And here, I am the predator. When I get out of here, I will kill everyone on this station. I will call my people. 100 Gorvith will come. Ben shook his head slowly. No, they will not. Because you are not leaving this station alive. Draven felt something he had never felt before. Complete, overwhelming terror. He was trapped. He was dying. And there was nothing he could do. Please, he said, the word tasting like poison in his mouth. Let me go? I will leave. I will never return. You threaten my people, Ben said quietly. 47,000 innocent beings. Families. Children. You were going to hunt them for sport. You were going to kill them because you could. He leaned forward. I made you a promise, Draven. I told you that if you tried to hurt my people, I would kill you. Humans do not break their promises. What are you? Draven screamed. What kind of creature are you? Ben was silent for a moment. When he spoke, his voice was tired but final. I am what my world made me. Earth does not create gentle creatures, Draven. It creates survivors. Fighters. Killers who will not stop until the threat is ended. You thought you were facing easy prey. You were facing 37 million years of evolution designed to destroy anything that threatens us. The chemical waste was rising. Draven could feel it eating through his scales, reaching the soft flesh beneath. Help me, he begged. Please. I will do anything. Ben stood up slowly. Die knowing this, he said. You came here as a monster. You will die as a warning. Every species in the galaxy will hear about what happened here. They will know that when you threaten humans, when you threaten those we protect, this is what waits for you. He turned and walked away. Behind him, Draven screamed. The screams continued for several minutes. Then they stopped. Pella and Saf found Ben collapsed in the corridor outside the processing center. He was barely conscious, covered in blood, barely breathing. Ben, Pella cried, rushing to his side. Is he dead? Ben whispered. The monster is dead. We need medical help. Saf shouted into his communicator. Human critical. Section 9, Corridor 12. Ben grabbed Pella's arm with surprising strength. The station, he said. Is everyone safe? Tears streamed down Pella's silver face. Yes, she said. Everyone is safe. You saved them. You saved all of us. Ben smiled weakly. Good, he said. That is good. His eyes closed. His body went limp. And for a terrible moment, Pella thought the man who had saved them all had died in her arms. But his chest still rose and fell. Barely. Just enough. The human had kept his promise. Now it was time to see if he would survive it. 3 weeks later, Ben opened his eyes. The room was white and quiet. Machines beeped softly around him. Tubes connected to his arms delivered fluids he could not name. When he tried to move, pain reminded him that some battles leave scars that never fully healed. A face appeared above him. Silver scales, for delicate arms, eyes wet with tears. Pella, he managed to say. You are awake, she whispered. After all this time, you are finally awake. How long? 23 days. The doctors did not think you would survive. Your wounds were too severe. You lost too much blood. Your heart stopped twice during surgery. Ben smiled weakly. Takes more than that to kill a human. The door opened. Saf rushed in, followed by Counselor Yith and a dozen others Ben recognized from his volunteer team. They crowded around his bed, speaking all at once, their joy overwhelming. Yith raised a thin hand for silence. Mr. Walker, the old Malaxi said formally. On behalf of the 47,000 beings who call this station home, I offer our deepest gratitude. You saved us all. Just did what needed doing, Ben said. You did far more than that. You showed us something we had forgotten. That courage is not about size or strength. It is about refusing to surrender, no matter the odds. Ben tried to sit up. Pain shot through his chest, but he pushed through it. What happened? After I passed out, Pella answered. The Gorvith government sent a message. They wanted to know what happened to Draven. Counselor Yith told them the truth. What truth? Yith's old face cracked into something that might have been a smile. A human happened to him. Saf jumped in eagerly. The news has spread across the galaxy. Everyone is talking about Helix 7, about the human who killed a Gorvith with his bare hands. I did not use my bare hands, Ben said. I used the whole station. That makes it even better. The stories say you turned an entire space station into a weapon, that you hunted the hunter, that you made an apex predator feel fear for the first time in his species' history. Ben closed his eyes. The memories were there, waiting. The blood, the pain, the screaming. He had not wanted any of this. He had spent 30 years running from violence, trying to forget what he was capable of. But when innocent people were threatened, the old instincts had returned. And he had done what he had always done. Whatever was necessary to protect those who could not protect themselves. The Gorvith, he said quietly. Will they send more? Yith shook his head. We received another message yesterday. From their High Council. They have declared Helix 7 off-limits to all Gorvith. They called it a cursed place, a place where predators become prey. They are afraid, Pella said. The greatest predators in the galaxy are afraid of what happened here. They should be, Ben said. Not of me. Of what humans can do when we have something to protect. Over the following weeks, Ben recovered slowly. Doctors from 12 different species worked together to heal his wounds. The scars would remain forever, but his strength returned bit by bit. During his recovery, visitors came constantly. Beings he had never met wanted to thank him personally. Parents brought children to see the human who had saved their station. Young warriors asked for his advice. Elders offered him honors and titles. Ben refused everything. I am not a hero, he told them. I am just a man who made a promise. When he was finally able to walk again, Ben returned to his ship. The Honest Deal sat in the docking bay where he had left it, battered and old, but still space-worthy. Pella was waiting by the boarding ramp. You are leaving, she said. It was not a question. I have cargo to haul, bills to pay. After everything that happened, you go back to hauling cargo? Ben shrugged. It is who I am, who I have been for 30 years. No, Pella said firmly. It is who you were hiding behind for 30 years. Now the galaxy knows who you really are. She held out a small bag. What is this? My things. I am coming with you. Ben raised an eyebrow. I did not ask for crew. I did not ask for permission. Before Ben could argue, another figure appeared. Saf, carrying a toolbox and a determined expression. The ship needs a mechanic, the young Thuric said. I am a good mechanic. Ben looked at them both. Then he sighed. Fine, but I do not pay well, and the work is boring. We do not care about pay, Pella said. We care about being part of something that matters. They boarded the ship together. As Ben powered up the engines, a transmission came through. He read it twice to make sure he understood. What is it? Saf asked. Ben turned to face his new crew. A mining colony in the outer systems. A Gorvith hunting pack has taken hostages. They are demanding ransom. Pella's silver scales rippled with emotion. What are you going to do? Ben looked at the transmission, then at his crew, then at the stars waiting outside. He had tried to run from his past. He had tried to hide from what he was. But the universe kept finding him, kept presenting him with situations where doing nothing was not an option. Maybe that was the point. Maybe some people were not meant to hide that he fired up the engines. Pack your things, he said. We have people to save. The Honest Deal launched into the darkness of space. Behind them, 47,000 beings watched the ship disappear. They would tell stories about what had happened here. Stories about a human who had faced the ultimate predator and won. Stories that would spread across the galaxy, changing how every species viewed the strange creatures from the Deathworld called Earth. And somewhere in that vast darkness, Ben Walker flew toward his next promise. He would keep it. He always did.